Welcome today to the Daigo Fukurimara Exhibition Hall. I'm going to share with you a little bit about what we do at the museum. At the museum, we talk about the radiation exposure of the Daigo Fukuryumaru. Daigo Fukuryumaru is a fishing boat that is exposed to nuclear testing in the Pacific Ocean. This is the Daigo Fukuryumaru. So this is a real ship of the Daigo Fukuryumaru that was exposed to nuclear fallout caused by nuclear testing in the Pacific Ocean. Daigo Fukuryumaru was built soon after the end of the World War II. The event happened before sunrise on March 1st in 1954. It was 8 years after her construction when she was under operation for fishing tuna. A hydrogen bomb testing was conducted 106 kilometers away from the Daigo Fukuryumaru. And 23 fishermen were exposed to radiation by the fallout which came from the explosion. So this hydrogen bomb, named as Bravo, and the first one that could be used in the practical war. So it is estimated that the bomb was 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. I'd like you to look at this small bottle. In this bottle, the nuclear fallout which fell on the Daigo Fukuryumaru. The ash is made from coral leaf, and it piles up so thickly that it left footprints on deck. The location of the Daigo Fukuryumaru was on the public sea, 100 kilometers away from the Bikini Atolls, where the nuclear testing took place. The US military created the danger zone around the Bikini Atoll, but the fishermen on the Daigo Fukuryumaru did not know the area, and they exposed to fallout even though they were outside the zone. On board the Daigo Fukuryumaru, there were 23 fishermen with an average age of 25. At the explosion, the western sky turned bright, and 6 to 7 minutes later, they heard the explosion. According to Matashi Oishi, who is one of the crew members, the light was soft like a morning sun. So they didn't know what had happened, but calculating the distance between the light and the sound, they figured that something must be happened in the Bikini Atolls. Some people knew that the Bikini Atoll was the US nuclear testing site, so they believed that it must be atomic bomb testing. The ashes began to fall in 3 hours while they are hurried to pull up the long lines. After that, she headed straight for Japan and returned its mother port, Yaizu, on March 14th. So they had to live on the contaminated ship for 14 days. As a result of the exposure, the crew members got acute radioactive disease. The effect of the radiation exposure began to show up within a day. For example, disease, diarrhea, and headache, and nausea, and breathing gums occurred. And the skin exposed to radiation developed inflammation like a burn. After returning port, they went to hospital and diagnosed with that it was the atomic disease. His name is Aikichi Kuboyama. He was the oldest man of the Daigo Fukuryumaru fishermen, and he had a very important role in this ship as a radio operator. He had 3 young daughters, but he died at the age of 40 on the September 23rd, 6 months after the exposure. He was first victim among the crew members of Daigo Fukuryumaru. The other fishermen were released from the hospital in the following year, but many of them suffered cancer or liver disease. After they were exposed to radiation, a law to support the hibakusha of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was passed in Japan, but they were not covered by the law. So they didn't have any support by the government. The fishermen of the Daigo Fukuryumaru was not only the people to be damaged by the nuclear testing. Many other people have affected by nuclear testing in various ways, such as health problem caused by the radiation exposure and the fish damage to the fish catches. The effect on the natural environment were also huge. So by the end of 1954, radioactively contaminated tuna was found in about 1,000 vessels fishing in the Pacific Ocean. At that time, most of the animal protein consumed by the Japanese people came from fish. So the hydrogen bomb test had a huge impact on the Japanese table. In addition, the economic impact was also very big. For example, many shipping companies or stores were forced out of business. After the negotiation between the United States government and Japanese government, the United States government paid $2 million to the Japanese government, saying it is not a compensation based on the legal responsibility. However, as a result of this payment, the Japanese government waived its right to claim compensation against the US government, and the case was closed. Fishermen of Daigo Fukuryumaru received some money from this payment, and they had to live with the after effects of radiation exposure and discrimination from the people with the hard dress without any support. We also talk about the suffering of nuclear testing in the Marshall Island and also in the world. 67 nuclear tests has conducted in the Marshall Island and more than 2,000 in the world. As the same as the Daigo Fukuryumaru, the damage caused by the nuclear testing was not in the form of the health problem. This can take many forms, such as the loss of homeland due to forced relocation or radioactive contamination, incomplete compensation, and many problems caused by the loss of traditional lifestyles. We show how nuclear testing had violated the dignity of the survivors from the perspective of respecting their human rights. Therefore, we believe that learning and paying attention to the nuclear testing in the world and its damage, it is really important for us not only to eliminate the threat of the nuclear weapon in the world, but also to help and restore the survivors' dignity. Today, the Daigo Fukuryumaru is keeping in this museum by the Tokyo government. She was used as student training ship at the National University for Fisheries after 2 years examination and abandoned in the garbage site of Tokyo in 1967. The preservation campaign launched by the citizens, and many people struggled for the protecting the Daigo Fukuryumaru. I am really grateful to people who work hard for its protection and creating the place where we can learn and communicate about the history of nuclear disaster. And one more thing that I have to talk is his name is Oishi Matashichi, who is the only person who had been delivered the experience of the Daigo Fukuryumaru. I'm very sorry to say that he passed away in this March. We are keep continuing to the voyage of the Daigo Fukuryumaru toward a nuclear-free future in the memory of him. So we are at the end of the visit. I hope you like it. The museum is located in a park 20 minutes by train from the Tokyo station. And the admission is free. So if you are visiting Tokyo, I hope you visit our museum. See you, take care.